All right, so I think we'll go ahead and get started. We might have some stragglers coming through. Hopefully you guys can hear me online. Devin's been able to hear me, so that should be okay. Thanks for coming. Today we're gonna walk you through how you might apply for summer research opportunities. We're going to focus on one specific type of research opportunity for the workshop, but hopefully you could apply all the same information even for a different kind of program. So we don't want to click again. So we shared in the chat a link to a Google Drive folder, and for those of you in person, we have a shorter bit.ly link up here if you'd rather type your answers as you go. And we do have the paper version. Even those of you in your dorm, there should be a print version there if you want to print it out and jot notes. Plenty of options for you there. Just you're only able to view them, so you have to download them so that you can edit them. Yeah, Megan. Oh. Okay, so there's a myriad of different research opportunities that you guys could be looking for. That might depend on your interests, or it might depend on your age, your discipline, etc. And we've got a slide here with a bunch of different information on some pretty well-known programs. One in-house, which is BU's Summer Scholars and Artists Program. That's a program where you identify a specific mentor on campus and you work with them on an independent research project. The application for that is in February. You have to work pretty closely with your mentor for that one. That's not something you can just apply for independently, but it is an opportunity that's there. The one we're going to be focusing on today is the research experiences for undergrads through the National Science Foundation, NSF REU program. Really prestigious research program, especially if you're headed in for a career in research, PhD, graduate school, etc. NSF REU programs are highly valuable experiences and good things for making more competitive in your graduate school applications as well. CERC programs are another big program that you'll find across the country. And I know that we've had a lot of students participate in some CERC programs up at SUNY Upstate, I believe, which brings me to this next bullet. We've got some great people who help keep this database here that you can find at this bit.ly link up and running with all the research opportunities that we know about. Either our students have participated in them, we get emails from different programs and stuff. So this is a highly specialized database that we've been collecting for your use in the FRI program. So that's a great place to scour for other opportunities outside of the one that we will be focusing on today. And I remember a lot of you were here, and probably a lot of you virtually attended Jordan Smith's talk on networking. So this message will not be unfamiliar to you. Leverage your personal network as well, right? Sometimes there's informal internships and experiences that you can identify through the network that you have, friends, family, alumni, etc. So don't forget to use those sort of back channel networks as well to identify opportunities to fill your summer with. How can you keep an eye on the chat in case there are questions? Or maybe someone could just
maybe Devin or Devin could unmute and say it.
Okay.
If there's things that
all right.
Yeah, because if they want to ask a question too, feel free to unmute those of you on Zoom and you can ask a question.
Use your resources as you attempt to navigate identifying and applying for these opportunities. You all have research educators who you're building a strong relationship with. You have a team of faculty members that work with your program. We have the FRI office, Dr. Fagley, our administrative assistant, Anita Cipolla, our grad student, Devin Link, who are all there to support you in finding, applying for, networking, all the things, right? We have an undergraduate research center on campus as well, who we work pretty closely with. They probably have other lists of programs and things, other networks to tap into, so don't forget to be pretty familiar with that office as well. And you've met Jordan and his extended family in the Fleischman Center. They have a lot of resources as well for things that you can do over the summer, internships or otherwise, and have the people and tools to help you guys prepare applications for those opportunities as well. They may not have the discipline-specific expertise that your research educators might have. So that's why it's good to sort of dabble in all the resources you have available to be as competitive as you can. Oh, this is only working. Okay, good. Like very close.
You might as well just hit the
Just
computer.
click it, yes. Okay, so like I said, we're going to focus on the NSF REU program for today's workshop. Have any of you guys ever heard of the REU program? No yeses in person, maybe some people in virtual world. National Science Foundation is one of the major funding agencies for scientific research in the United States. And about probably like a decade ago, they started funding a program called Research Experiences for Undergrads, which everyone just calls REUs now, which is highly funded, really in-depth, intense research experience over the summer. Some of them do run during the academic year, but typically they're summer programs, 10 weeks in length, typically, and typically only 10 undergraduates per site. So because of that, they are quite competitive, which brings along the prestige with it when you get to participate in one of these sites. We had a site here a couple years ago, and I know that they were getting something on the order of like 400 applications in the span of a month for those 10 spots, right? So that kind of tells you the scale that this program is on. But you guys have such a big step up compared to other students of your age, coming in as a freshman, already having research experience, or a sophomore having already executed your own research project. So in trying to sell yourself, you need to make sure that you communicate those skills and things that you have that really set you apart from other undergraduates across the country. These are fully funded experiences, generous stipends, like usually bare minimum of like $6,500 now, housing, meals, and travel to and from the site. So you don't have to be worried about where the REU site is, because most of the time, those kind of things will be covered by the grant. So that's a really nice way to be able to explore the country and do the kind of research that you're really looking to do. Okay, so first step, how do I find an REU site, right? So companies, but primarily universities, will host REU sites, right? So it's the location that the research is taking place. It falls under a specific research thematic umbrella, right? I'm running one here at Binghamton University on microbial biofilms, right? So all the research happening, lots of different research projects, but they all have to do in some way with microbiology and the biofilm related problems. So that's in general what a site is going to look like. It's going to be in a specific place and it's going to be on a specific topic. So although I said you don't have to be interested in location, it is something that might be of interest to you when you're combing through these. So I want you guys to take 5 minutes as part of this workshop to explore and identify one of these that might be of interest to you. We're going to use it throughout today's workshop. explore what might be required of you to apply to that site, what the theme is, etc. Here are 3 places that you can find or search for different REU sites. The first one is actually the NSF website that houses all of these REU programs. And then the other 2 are external websites, the second of which is still funded by the National Science Foundation. So take a few minutes, explore that, and see if you might find one that is of interest to you. And then we'll regroup and move through the next steps. Now would be a great time for Q&A if you have anything that you've thought of already.
So, obviously, that, there's, just going on the REU website and REU site that you would theoretically like to have.
If you all identify one that you might be interested in, start to figure out how you would apply, like what kinds of things might be required of you.
Yeah, international students, would that be your hindrance?
It would. So why don't you guys look at the CERF program? Didn't think that went through. Unfortunately, yes, the REU program is for US citizens or permanent residents. I think the CERF program is more open.
The other thing is, all of the like workshops, questions are things you're gonna find on like any application for any summer research experience. So if you just pick one and just theoretically work through it, I think you'll still come out with stuff you can do for other opportunities.
Or you could explore the FRI database right now.
Oh, yeah,
As well.
well, we have, that would be a good problem to add. I think you have to be US. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know if we have that.
That we do. Also, okay, so home, the CERF is also US only.
I think they can just pick one, because all the questions
Yeah,
are things
it's
that
for the
you're gonna
whole-
use for any kind of summer opportunity.
The entire rest of the workshop is pretty generic. The point was just to get you to explore opportunities there. But this brings up a good point to make sure that you meet all the requirements for whatever site. Some of them do have age requirements, you know, you must be a sophomore standing, must be coming from a community college, what have you. So yeah, before you ever get too deep into applying for something, definitely want to be checking your requirements page. I'll give you guys like another 30 seconds or so, and then we'll move forward just so we can spend time on the meat and potatoes of what you would have to put together.
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
When it on the websites, when it specifies like what grade levels they're open to, if it's the summer between freshman and sophomore year, do you count as a freshman or sophomore for that?
I would check the exact program's website because they would usually define that.
Okay.
But usually I would say you would be whatever you're a rising sophomore. But they should be more clear on their language.
Okay.
What would you use, Dr. Light, for yours?
You need to say rising,
Okay.
whatever. So you have to be,
So most of you would either be rising sophomores or rising juniors.
exactly. Most of them, you have, pretty much all of these, you have to have a year of college under your belt. It's rare to be able to enter one of these with just high school. That's a good question. But the REUs are pretty decentralized when it comes to their information. Every site has different application requirements, different timelines, different everything. So once you identify one, you want to spend time on that program's specific website to learn what exactly they require, what ages they're looking for, what backgrounds they're looking for, etc. So great questions. So we're going to move on, but I'm sure you're just only now starting to explore what opportunities are out there. You could spend a lot of time doing this and, you know, just spend a couple minutes every day and look at this stuff and talk to your friends and talk to your research educators for their recommendations. So how do you apply for an REU or any summer research opportunity for that matter? This is our list of the typical requirements that you're going to see, right? Again, that can vary by site and program and type of opportunity, but more or less, this is what you've got. Transcripts to show what classes you've taken and what your grades are in them, a resume or CV. Many of the research sites will ask for CVs, and that's what researchers are used to working with. If you ever have any specific questions, like the one that just came up virtually, all of these sites have program contacts as well. So you can email them and ask clarifying questions. So don't forget about that. Personal statement, why do you want to do this? What are your career goals? How's this going to help you? Letters of recommendation from, in the best case scenario, research faculty. And in some cases, these sites will have interviews in their later stages of application. Not true of all sites, but can be something that you come across. I suggest a spreadsheet for keeping track of the things that you're interested in. When does the application open? When does it close? When's the program running? Where is it? What's the website? Otherwise, your head's just going to start to spin because everything's different. It's like, just can't be that easy,
I
right?
will also say it's very common for FRI students to apply to like 15 to 20 of these.
Yep.
And get accepted to one.
So that's my point here about these statistics. I told you like our site here was looking at 500 applicants from just a 4-week open window of applications, and you're only taking 10, right? Our kids are submitting to a lot of these and having low success rates even for that. So it's super competitive. But you guys have what it takes. It's about crafting a quality application.
It only takes one yes.
Yep. And once you get into one of these, it opens, it seriously will open a lot more doors. I think oftentimes it probably shouldn't be this way, but the way that it works If you get one REU, it's kind of easy to get another one. So if you get one early enough, pretty easy to get a second. Okay, so step one, how do I get a transcript? Anybody know how to do that here? Okay, some of you have some experience. Again, depending on the site, they may have to be official or they might be unofficial, right? I've put the links in the slideshow here for how to get official and unofficial transcripts through Binghamton University. So if you want to take a minute and try to find your unofficial transcript, you could try to do that. Basically, you're going to BU Brain and downloading your transcript from there, right? That would be a good thing to have for yourself. Those of you that are freshmen, it's probably just going to show the classes you came in with, and it's going to say IP in progress for the classes you're taking now. But if you learn the process, that's fine. And then there's a separate process for how you would request official transcripts directly to the site. Many of them will ask you for unofficial when you apply, and then if you're accepted, you have to send your official as confirmation. Sometimes that could be the system. Any questions from online?
What's like the difference between official and unofficial?
The unofficial, you can just go on yourself. The other like is like certified and like I think it's usually directly given to the person that wants it. So like you're not a middleman, so there's no way that you can like tamper with it.
So if you're smart enough to use Photoshop, you can't change your GPA and your course grades, right? It's going directly from the registrar to the RU site or your job or whatever. It's good that we're wondering that, right? Do you guys like some more time to do that, or you think? It's not best doing this. You girls want some more time, or? Okay.
How many of you here are first year students? So my suggestion would be as you're applying for these things, that the deadline is like, you know, January 1st. Wait until your grades from the semester are in the system before you request a transcript, because it's gonna be pretty meaningless to send it without those first semester grades.
Okay, so I talked about selling yourselves, right? You guys have a leg up, unlike many others in your position. So it's on you to be able to highlight that. So Jordan Smith has given a talk on this before, and I think I have the link in the worksheet to that talk that we have posted on YouTube. There's also a career guide that Jordan put together that's like specific for how to put together a research focused resume, right? Removing, I was a volunteer at Camp Kitty for 10 summers, right? That's great, but it might not be the most impactful thing. What could you use your space better for when applying to a research position, right? You could put more detail into your FRI experience rather than just listing, you know, your one bullet title. What skills did you gain? I think I have a few points on this actually. So my point being here was that you should remove unrelated content. You can't have one resume that's perfect for everything you put together. So remove unrelated content and add some detail and specifics to the research side, since you're applying for a summer research experience. This comes from Jordan's slides, his talk, the career guide, etc. It's all about being specific and actionable in what exactly you are able to do, what you did from specific experiences, right? An action verb. I independently researched this. I gained these particular skills. I had this kind of outcome. I presented my poster at a research session. I put together research manuscript. I did this for 3 years. These results will be able to help inform new treatments for biofilm infections, any kind of detail that will talk about the impact and quality of that experience, which is what you're trying to sell, right? Anybody can say that they have freshman research, but hopefully you guys will quickly learn the depth of the experience that you're getting. You need to be able to convey that to other people. This is also from Jordan's talk. It's an example bullet of what you could talk about when it comes to highlighting your FRI experience. So this is all, this could easily take up a third of your resume, just talking about FRI alone, not including your coursework and other things. So you worked on a team, Pseudomonas quinolone signal, and outer membrane vesicles. The details of your, I've spent 150 hours in the lab over the course of this project. Compiled information, proposal, manuscript, we shared them. Here's the skills I got out of this experience, right? This tells the reviewer of your application a lot of information on this experience. If you just put the title of your poster, that might not.
Do we put a skills section under every related research experience?
You may want to put a skills section under everyone, right? If you're applying for a research experience and you only have 2 experiences, you can be pretty detailed about them, right? Think about if it's a 1-page resume, how do you want to use that real estate, right? That's got to be a personal decision, but the things that best highlight your ability to do research, the most time should be spent on them. So it's possible. If those skills overlap, you may want to choose to have a general skills section because that's a better use of that real estate. You don't have redundancy. You're just saying, these are all the skills I've gained from all of these experiences. That's sort of up to you, but a great question nonetheless. Again, here is Jordan's materials. These were curated for FRI, so they're FRI specific. I encourage you to watch this and to look at this career guide. It has these examples. Jordan obviously explained them much better than I, but this is some of the best advice you'll get because it's really tailored exactly to what you guys are doing. Okay, so we're going to take a couple minutes here and think about how we should go about updating our CV and resume. So you'll see on your worksheets, whether you have the print version or bullets to type into, there's a whole list of things I want you to just brainstorm. Just think about everything that you could and should highlight about yourself that could speak to your ability to be successful in the summer research program. Do you have any research experiences? Yes, FRI, yes, high school. Yes, I'm also in a lab. What courses have you taken? Hopefully you identified a site. So my biofilms kid, maybe you found a microbiology site. So a relevant course would be microbiology or intro biology. Basics in computer science, if you're applying to a computer science program, data science program. What leadership experience might you have, right? That could be something that you want to highlight. Although you probably won't take on a leadership role in a REU because you are going to be the mentee, it's never a bad thing to highlight leadership experience. Teamwork experience can be huge. You're going to have to work under a group of people within a lab. If you can show that you know how to work with other people and you can do it well, that can be a really strong thing to highlight. Research skills and professional skills. You are gaining many, if not all of these things by participating in the FRI program. So you should be able to jot down a few things that you've gained now or that you're going to have gained by the end of this academic year as you guys enter the labs in spring 23. So about 10 minutes total here to just jot down some ideas. Unmute yourselves and ask questions whenever. If you want, you can pull up your resume too and start throwing things in there, depending where you're at in the process for this. This is just a brainstorming activity.
I think we caught the one, but I can check it up here.
Someone in the chat is asking, what are the limits on how much we can mention high school activities on a resume CV? I assume for the most part, we should focus on things from college, asking as a freshman.
Yeah, that's a great question. As a freshman, it's still totally fair game to have some things from high school. I think sort of each year as you progress through your undergraduate experience, you should begin to remove more and more because you're going to hopefully be building more and more from your undergraduate experience. That being said, my main answer to that question would be, it's still okay to keep it on there as long as it's relevant to this opportunity, as long as it's high school research experience or some really big leadership or teamwork experience, right? The more it can be geared towards research specifically, the better. I think I've heard a rule about like after like 2 years into undergraduate, you should start to shift.
And I always try, like, if I can add something new, what's old that I should remove? Kind of like when you buy a new piece of clothing, get rid of something else in your closet, kind of idea.
Of course, high school research still has relevance, right? It's still research. It might be on a different level or scale, But I'm sure that you learned from that opportunity, and that's what you're trying to show here. So what was it that you gained from that experience? Yeah, maybe you didn't cure cancer. That's okay. You're just trying to show your skill set and your growth.
And I think it could even, like, things in high school that you might not think about could be relevant to research if you did anything like with Excel or even like communications, you could like kind of promote the public speaking aspects of that. So I think it's always about, like, if it's there, making sure that you're selling it for what you're trying to get. And many times you're gonna have different versions of your resume and CV depending on what you're applying to.
Would shadowing at hospital be a good thing to put down? I wouldn't say it's bad, but it would fall lower than like research related activities for this type of experience. But if you go into that database and you start looking, you're gonna find, I think we have like shadowing programs and stuff in there as well.
Yeah, and also like if the research program that you're going into is through like a medical university or has medical ties to it, like it's just about like linking it with whatever you're applying for.
Yep. And oh, no, just leadership is leadership. If it's STEM, like great, that's just like nice bonus, but if you have strong leadership skills, you can apply them to any situation. Good question. I do want to like touch back to the shadowing and the idea of, well, I'll just hang on to that for a minute. We are going to move on. Obviously, this is not enough time to be fully comprehensive here, just to get you thinking about these things, and you can revisit these questions later. The other big thing with applications is a personal statement. So what should you include? What shouldn't you include? That can be dependent on the site, because as I said, each site's going to require a specific set of questions that they might ask you. Some of them might be super generic, just like, give me a personal statement on your research interests. And some of them might have more targeted questions. So you need to go to those sites specifically. But if we move to the next item in our worksheet here, I have a bunch of prompts for you that are the typical things that you may be asked to talk about or that you should talk about if they give you a vague prompt. Why do you want to do this, right? What are you hoping to get from them? What are your career goals? What are your research interests? You know, specifically, like I'm interested in this specific protein or this specific disease or this specific technology. How do you feel that you're prepared for this opportunity? An example of how you work on a long-term research project or team, and sometimes talking about how you respond to challenge and adversity can be good as well. These programs are pretty rigorous and tough, so they're looking for character traits on perseverance and things like that. So take a few minutes. I think I'm getting behind kind of quickly. So probably not 10 minutes, but start reflecting and think about these questions. The item I wanted to save for here was the idea of speaking about medical school. So many of these programs are going to be geared for students who want to go into research as a career. So you might have an interest in medicine, you might have an equal interest in research. I sort of suggest being careful with saying that you're like gung-ho and going to medical school, because there are better programs for those types of students, and that might get you filtered out of an RE pile, where they're really looking to build skills for kids who want to enter the research workforce. So that one can be tricky to navigate. I think there was a question, right?
I missed it. Sorry.
Maybe. Ooh. How long is the average personal statement?
Usually they tell you exactly how many words they want, right?
Yeah, words or characters. I would say it's like definitely never more than 2 pages. Double spaced, I would think. I don't even know what our character limit is. I think it might be 1,500 or 2,000 characters or something. So they're usually fairly short. So covering all of this in that amount of,
focus.
you have to be focused, you have to have the story, you have to be artful in how you bring these things in, you can't ramble. So if you're bad at this, what might you do? What was that?
Go to Fleischman.
Go to the Fleischman Center, yeah, what else? No other resources?
About those of you on Zoom, anyone have an idea where
Let me
you can
just-
go for help?
Flip back here,
Yeah.
the FRI office, yeah,
Writing center.
writing center. Speaking center, yeah, undergraduate research center. Hello, your REs, right? We are heavily invested in your futures, right? And have helped a lot of students craft these. There was a question about being extra creative. I wouldn't say that, but think about, again, a stack of 500, right? And there's 10 research faculty that have to go through these. I have to skim through 50. You're all gonna start to sound alike. So
You have to stand up.
you do have to stand out. So you don't want to be like outlandishly creative and crazy, but you want to have something memorable. That's gonna keep you at the front of someone's mind, yeah. Just listing this stuff and being vague and generic will keep you hidden in that stack, even if you're not. So
So Dr. Light, I have a question. When you were looking at the personal statements that were submitted for your REU, one thing that I like to see like on job application materials, because that's what I'm reading through, like bolding or underlining certain things to help them stand out so that like really big points aren't getting lost in the weeds. Is that something that you would like to see on an REU, like personal statement?
I think that would be helpful to me, certainly on a resume. Formatting is very helpful. I don't recall seeing students do that in their personal statements. I don't have any memorable events of that, so that could certainly help. Like, this is why I want to do this. This is why it's so important. Highlight it, drawing attention to those things for sure. The ones I remember the most are the ones that are telling a story, where I can sort of just like picture the person.
But not too outlandish.
No, yeah,
There's a balance.
genuine. It's sort of really hard to describe. Sorry, I know I tell my kids all the time, it's a squishy gray thing, not black and white. It's not crisp and hard and defined. We can all just sort of read one and know that it's good. But that's where using these resources and getting feedback is helpful. So we're gonna keep moving. But those kinds of things are gonna take some time and reflection to think about. But if you're a freshman, you did probably just do this somewhat recently on your college statement, so you know the kinds of things you're supposed to do. The other big components to most applications are letters of recommendation, and this will go on for the rest of your life. So who can make a strong recommendation and how can I ask them? So I'll stay there for a minute. Who might you guys ask?
Research educator.
Yeah, your research educator. Yeah. Mhm.
Professor from relative coursework.
Professors.
Which professor?
Like based on a class that they apply, so like microbiology maybe.
Okay, so something that would apply to what the experience you're trying to get, that's a good idea, yeah.
Course you've done well in, course you've built a relationship with the professor. The question will probably come up, can I ask someone from high school? You can, but as you move further and further, you should stop doing that, and it will be stronger if it's coming from faculty at your university. Some sites might require that it be that, some might be more loose. By the end of your time in FRI, you should have plenty of people that you can reach out to, but as a freshman, it can be hard, right? You're in like 1,000-person chem class. You don't know your professor super well, but that's why networking is important and all the things Jordan taught us.
What's the way to get, build a relationship with a professor that you have in a large class size? Yes.
Yep. Office hours, ask questions, be engaged in class. All those
Make
things.
yourself memorable.
Yep, exactly. And do well. And if, if you're struggling, you're going for help. Those are the kinds of things that a professor like that might talk about. So that's a tough question. So how do we ask, right? It's always scary and uncomfortable. That's just human nature. With the REs, it's a bit easier because we're probably the professor that you know on the closest level, and it's just a bit easier and you build a relationship with us over time. How do you ask a professor of one of those large classes? Going to office hours. I think it's helpful to build that relationship first so it's not out of nowhere.
You could even ask them in person before you send a follow-up email.
Yes, I always suggest asking in person. It's just more personal. You can get tone out of it. They can see your sincerity. So yeah, you just have to build the courage, have a script, go into it knowing what you're going to ask them for and why. Other good things would be to, I think I have onto the slide. So part of the workshop was thinking about at least 2 people that you could ask. When you might ask, and drafting an email or a script for that conversation, right? I think it's best to give your professors like at least a month's notice whenever you can. Very busy, and especially with FRI, I write letters for probably like 95% of my students because we are the ones that you're going to build the deepest relationship with. So we write a lot of them, and you're applying to lots of things, so we need time, and we're busy. Everyone's busy, right? So that shows respect if you're asking early enough. Follow up as the deadline gets closer, follow up with 2 weeks left. Hey, just a reminder, 2 weeks left. I haven't seen it come through in a couple days before. Being gracious and respectful of that recommendation can come through when thinking about timing. So you need to keep track in your spreadsheet when these applications are due and when you need to ask. So the earlier, the better. And your teachers will tell you if you ask 3 months early, they will be like, oh my gosh, like, of course. But just please follow up with me like in another month from now, so don't forget. But I'd say earlier the better in most cases. Other questions out?
Can you ask when the graduate student will be teaching about?
That happens sometimes where you have a better relationship with the TA or grad student than you do the main professor. What I often suggest in those cases is to ask the professor and maybe suggest that the graduate student could provide some specific comments to help the instructor write that letter. That's a good way to handle it. That way it's still coming from a stronger authority, but it has that personalization and detail from the person who knows you best. That could be a thing to do. Same for research labs, right? If you're in a lab later on, you're in my lab, but I have 5 grad students and they do all the day-to-day management. I might ask them to draft the letter and I add my own touch and have conversation with them and things like that. So good question. Definitely not of time. So you've got this worksheet and you can follow up with any of us on all of these steps. Well, I guess we do all of those. Interviews was that last step in the things I mentioned that might come through for a summer application or a summer job. I highly suggest reaching out to the Career Center. They have in-person and virtual mock interviews that they can put you through to prepare you for this. Your research educators could put you through a mock interview so that you're prepared. You can Google common interview questions for research-related positions. We have another talk from Jordan Smith in the Fleischman Center recorded from previous years on how to ace your interview. What are the kinds of things you can do to be successful in an interview? And a link there to the online interviewing system that the Fleischman Center provides.
Let's say you have like multiple programs that you found that you want to apply to. How should you like go about asking for those multiple?
Great question. So I don't know if you could hear that. What if you're going to apply to multiple? Because you should, right? These are highly competitive. You should apply to multiple. When you reach out to the faculty, I prefer that they have a list. Maybe they share with me their spreadsheet or their list of things that they're going to apply to and the deadlines for each of them. Put them in order. Very often we will have a summer research letter crafted that we can basically send to all of the programs such that it's not too much of a burden on us. I think the thing is to be clear about how many and when the deadlines will be coming through, how they will be coming through. You will get an email and you submit it. You need to mail it. You need to email it to so-and-so. Clear instructions. A lot of the research educators have Google Forms. So when you ask for a letter, they'll say, sure, but fill out this Google form. And the form asks for all the information they need.
Yeah, and I know my form, I asked for students to submit for each experience that they're applying for, so that it's separate, and then I can check off when I've done it. So it helps keep me organized.
Yeah. And surprisingly, I'm a bit more informal. I'll just mix up an email and to sort of put it on my students to keep tabs if I forgot one. But I at least know to be paying attention to my inbox for the emails to come through. Yeah. Okay, so I realized I kind of made the REUs sound scary as I was explaining them, but you miss 100% of the shots that you don't take, right? So you got to try, right? You got to put yourself out there. The higher you climb, the more competitive things are going to be getting for you. So we have to become okay with, if you want to call it failure, but this is a learning experience and a personal reflection experience, even putting these things together and realizing how many skills you now have and how competitive you really are. So everything is valuable there. Start with finding and identifying opportunities, figure out what's required of you, prepare your materials and use all of the resources that we've given you and that you have as a Binghamton student. You have far, far, far more resources than most students because of the size and network of this university. So tap into them, right? And just go ahead and take a shot. You might be surprised with yourselves. So I wish we had some more time to work on this, but you can always reach out to me via email and I can try to help you out. Stop by the FRI office, talk to your research educators, and we'll help you through this process. Any last minute questions. If not, you probably have to run, but we'll stick around and answer whatever questions you have. Yeah,
So let's say you like want to apply to like an internship
Hmm?
rather than like research
Yes.
experience. Like with your research experience still, you have a good resource to provide those letters.
yep. I write them for medical shadowing, everything, yep. Whoever can speak to your professional habits and ability to succeed, like, yeah, I don't know how you operate in this specific capacity, but I know these transferable skills that you have, and I can vouch for those. You can ask them to talk about, hey, I'd really like you to talk about this. I think you've seen me struggle through adversity and come out stronger. Could you speak to that? You can ask your recommenders to highlight specific things. That helps them. Then they're not just like trying to come up with material on their own. That's totally okay.
It's just something funny.
Someone in the chat asked, is there an earliest time we should ask for a letter of recommendation?
Really is. Like,
I mean, you are gonna have to know the exact thing you're applying to first. So,
yeah, the latest, I would say, like, you're probably gonna get some frustration even at the 2-week window, but like that would be absolute latest unless you know your person already has a letter on file for you.
then it's not too hard to update
To
it and
update
send
it.
it in.
But I would usually say a month minimum. As far as like being too early, I don't.
Just as long as you know what the thing is that you're applying to, it's fine.
Yeah, you're not just asking like, hey, will you write me a letter for something in the future?
Yeah.
But I've had kids ask like a year ahead of med school, I'll be applying next cycle. Will you write a letter for me? And I'm like, yeah, for sure. Thanks for asking ahead, but please check in with me like a month out from that. So I'm thankful for the early notice, but I also tell them I'm forgetful and you should follow up.
No other questions in the chat. So,
Yeah,
When are like the most of these applications that you buy like the earlier ones to do?
now.
there's like, they start November and go through usually February at the
February.
latest.
Some March.
Yeah.
It's widely variable. I would say the bulk of them, December, January. So now a deadline in November would be very early. A deadline in February, March would be late.
A lot of
Typically,
them are mid-January and students will work on them during
for the
winter
winter
break.
break. Yep. I think the ones that are earlier tend to be ones that can afford to be competitive, like ones at Penn or Yale or Harvard, because they know they are Penn, Yale, Harvard, they can afford to like miss out on a population because they can. But that don't mean anything.
And I will say on the FRI database that we created, there is a column with when the deadlines are, so you can quickly like scan that to get an idea of when things are due. And some of that is not up to date because we are constantly updating it as the programs update, so it might have previous year information yet. But
Talk to other students in your stream, older students, so like your peer mentors, find out what sorts of things they have participated in. It's another way to find out about opportunities. Because that's how word of mouth is what can really spread some like cool programs and stuff.
well, if there's not any other questions, thank you, Dr. Light, for putting this together. And Hope it was helpful, and if you have questions, be sure to follow up with either of us, really.
Cool. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much.
Yep, thank you.